There's a moment in every interaction where she decides something about you, without telling you. Not based on your looks, not based on your words, not even based on your confidence, but based on something far smaller. A silence, a pause, just 4 seconds. And in that tiny gap, her brain starts writing a story about who you are. Are you calm, or are you nervous? Are you in control, or are you reacting? Most men destroy this moment without realizing it. They rush to fill it. They over-explain. They reply too fast. And in doing so, they accidentally communicate something they never intended. So here's the question that changes everything. What if the way she sees your entire personality is shaped, not by what you say, but by how long you wait before you say it? In the next few minutes, you're going to understand a subtle psychological mechanism that operates in almost every conversation between men and women, especially in attraction dynamics. We're going to break down why a simple 4-second pause can shift how she perceives your confidence, emotional control, and even your desirability. This isn't guesswork. It's rooted in how the human brain interprets timing, uncertainty, and social signaling under pressure. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly when to use silence, how to use it naturally, and why most men unconsciously signal neediness just by responding too quickly. And more importantly, you'll understand why the most attractive presence in the room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who is comfortable not reacting immediately. Let's get into it. Picture this. You send a message. She replies, and before you even fully register what she said, you've already responded. Fast, almost automatic. Now switch roles. She sends a message, you wait, not hours, not games, just a few seconds, maybe 4. In that tiny gap, her brain starts doing something interesting. Human cognition is wired to interpret speed as emotional leakage. Fast responses often signal anxiety, urgency, or overinvestment. Slower responses suggest regulation and control. This isn't manipulation, it's perception. The brain constantly tries to decode emotional state from timing cues. When you pause, you interrupt the expectation of instant reaction. You create what psychologists call processing space, where the other person becomes more aware of your intentionality. And intentionality is powerful. It reads as confidence. So instead of reacting instantly, you breathe, you process, and you allow a small gap to exist. Because in that gap, she isn't just reading your words, she's reading your state of mind. And that changes everything. Now let's go deeper into what that pause actually does to her internal story about you. Imagine you're sitting across from her. She asks you a slightly challenging question. Nothing aggressive, just something that requires thought. Most men rush to answer. They fill the space immediately, afraid of awkwardness. But a man who pauses for 4 seconds does something very different. He signals that his thoughts are not triggered by pressure. In social psychology, this connects to what's often called response latency, the time between stimulus and reply. Lower latency can signal reactivity. Slightly delayed responses suggest cognitive control. That 4-second window is powerful because it's long enough to be noticed, but short enough not to feel unnatural. In those seconds, she subconsciously evaluates you, not consciously, not logically, emotionally. Is he comfortable with silence? Does he need approval to respond? Or is he simply thinking before speaking? And here's the shift most men miss. Attraction isn't built only on what you say. It's built on whether you seem like someone who can hold themselves together under subtle pressure. The pause communicates, I'm not rushed by you, I'm choosing my response. And that choice is where perceived confidence is born. But there's another layer to this, and it's even more important. Let's say she says something playful, maybe a teasing comment, and instead of instantly replying, you pause. 4 seconds. What happens in her mind? Silence creates a gap in prediction, and the human brain hates incomplete patterns. So during that pause, she starts filling in the blanks herself. Did I say something wrong? Is he thinking? Is he amused? Is he different from other guys? This is where curiosity is born, not from what you say next, but from the uncertainty before you say it. In neuroscience, this connects to dopamine-driven anticipation. The brain releases more dopamine in uncertainty than in certainty itself. So when you pause, you don't reduce attraction, you stretch anticipation. But here's the key: the pause must feel natural, not forced. It's not a tactic, it's a rhythm. You're not delaying to create anxiety. You're allowing space for presence. And presence is what makes you stand out in a world of instant reactions. Now, this is where most men overdo it. And this next part is where everything can go wrong if you misunderstand it. Let's be honest. There's a line: a 4-second pause can elevate your presence, but a forced silence can destroy it. Picture a man who counts the seconds in his head, trying to perform confidence. He waits awkwardly, then speaks unnaturally. She feels it instantly. Because authenticity always leaks through timing. The goal is not to apply a pause. The goal is to become comfortable enough that silence doesn't feel like a threat. In psychology, this is emotional regulation. People who regulate well don't rush to feel discomfort. So how do you do it naturally? You anchor your attention. You actually listen. You let the words land before responding. Then the pause happens on its own, not as a trick, but as a byproduct of calm awareness. And when she senses that you're not escaping silence but inhabiting it, her perception shifts again. Now you're not just confident, you're grounded. And grounded men feel rare. Here's something most men never consider. In studies of conversational perception, people consistently rate slightly delayed responders as more thoughtful and higher status than instant responders. But only up to a point. After that, the perception flips, which means the difference between attractive presence and awkwardness is often just a few seconds. So ask yourself this: how many times have you lost impact, not because of what you said, but because you said it too fast? Now we reach the deepest layer, because this isn't really about conversation. It's about identity perception. When you consistently use calm pauses, something subtle happens in how she categorizes you mentally. You stop being another guy she's talking to. You become a man who is different, not because you're trying to be different, but because your timing doesn't match the emotional pace most men operate on. And humans use contrast to define value. If most people are fast, reactive, and eager, then calm, measured presence stands out. Over time, these micro moments stack. One pause becomes a pattern becomes an impression, and an impression becomes identity. She doesn't think, he pauses 4 seconds. She thinks, he's just different in how he carries himself, and that's the real shift. Not behavior change, perception change. At the core of this isn't silence, it's self-control. Because every time you resist the urge to rush, you're training yourself to stop chasing approval in real time. And people feel that. They feel when a man is speaking from presence instead of pressure. They feel when he is not trying to win the moment, but simply existing in it. The irony is, the less you rush to impress someone, the more naturally impressive you become. Not because you changed your personality, but because you stopped revealing your insecurity through speed. And in relationships, especially with emotionally mature women, this becomes everything. They are not drawn to perfection, they are drawn to emotional steadiness, and silence, when used correctly, is one of the clearest signals of that steadiness. If this resonated with you, it probably means you've noticed moments where conversations didn't go the way you wanted, without knowing why. And now you're starting to see the invisible layer underneath it: the timing. So I'm curious, have you ever noticed a conversation where things shifted just because of a pause or silence? Share it in the comments. I read them. And in the next video, we'll go deeper into something even more interesting: how emotional pacing in conversation
can either build deep attraction or quietly kill it without you realizing. Because sometimes it's not what you say that changes everything. It's the space you leave before you say it. See you in the next one.